Reality Check with Craig Price.
Oh, right. Sorry.
I'm an idiot. 4 minutes in and I'm already wrong. I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's another edition of Reality Check with Craig Price. Got a great podcast for you today. We got Stacey Hanke with First Impressions Consulting. She's going to come and talk about communication skills, not just verbal, but written, and all kinds of ways we communicate. And communications is one of these things that everybody does. We all do it all day long, multiple ways in different formats, and yet not a lot of us are very effective at it. I'm certainly not the best email writer. I'm certainly not the best phone message leaver, if that's actually a thing. I mean, you can tell. That's kind of like how I leave a message. It's like, beep.
Yeah, this is Craig. I am Craig Price. Yes, Craig. I am just leaving a message, obviously. I am leaving a message. I'm calling you to make sure that if we're going to be having... I'm going to call you right back.
And that's how I leave a message. I sound like a moron. Now, when I talk to you on the phone, I'm fine. If I talk to you on face-to-face, I'm fine. I may still sound like a moron, but at least it's because of the information that I'm giving, not the way I'm sounding and how I'm acting. So, communication can be difficult for a lot of people, and to be effective, because a lot of people aren't put into positions where they have to communicate to more than one or two people at a time at any given moment. Most of us live in our little cubicles. I certainly did, get the little office. We deal with 2 or 3 people a day. Maybe we talk to 5 or 10, but we're never at any given moment. The only time we dread is maybe the weekly meeting where we have to go and say something. Some of us are in positions where we have to go for our jobs every so often. On a rare occasion, we have to go present, maybe for an hour, hour and a half. For me, I have to present. That's what I do every week. I'm presenting, several hours, 2 hours, 4 hours. I'm presenting all day long. So for me, it's not an issue because I don't worry about how I look in front of people. If I sound stupid and act stupid, I don't worry about it, which frees me to do all kinds of wonderful things when I'm speaking. A lot of people are worried that they're going to sound stupid or look stupid or they're going to make a mistake. And so that worry, that fear all of a sudden overwhelms them and they have a hard time communicating properly. But before we get into that, I want you to know that if you have any questions, you have any comments, you have guest suggestions, I'm always looking for great guests. You can email me at craig@speakercraigprice.com. You can also go to our website, realitycheckpodcast.com. There you can subscribe to the iTunes feed so you can get it automatically through your iTunes. You can sign up to like us on Facebook, which also will get you podcast availability. You can listen to podcasts right from Facebook. You sign up for the newsletter, tell you who's been on, so you can catch up on past episodes, but also tell you who we're going to have in the future. All kinds of stuff. So if you go to realitycheckpodcast.com, don't be afraid to communicate to us. Now here to communicate with you, Stacey Hanke.
Chicago. Mm-hmm.
Rough year for you guys, football wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm a big Packer fan.
Oh, are you? Uh-huh. Oh, so you're the second Packer fan.
I am a big Packer fan. We are still celebrating.
Oh.
We're very happy about that.
So you're not from Chicago?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. Where in Wisconsin?
A small town called Marathon.
Okay. So
right, exactly.
It's a long way to get there, right?
It's a long way to get there.
26
it's
miles?
The central part of Wisconsin.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you grew up there?
Grew up in the central Wisconsin area.
Okay.
And then spent some time up there, moved to Milwaukee for a while. And then 11 years ago moved to Chicago.
So you have no lactose intolerance at all. You can just eat cheese all day long and have no problems.
Well, I could, but I don't.
No, I understand that, because otherwise you'd be 9,000 pounds.
That's right. Right. Yeah.
And
no health issues.
Now here's the thing. I want you to say your last name, because
Hanke.
Hanke. Mm-hmm. See, I want to, because we had some discussion about this so we're here with Stacey Hanke. Did I say that right?
We said that right.
Okay,
Thank you.
Because when David Newman introduced you to me, 2 days before he called me a mofo.
Mm-hmm.
So now when he says it's Stacey Hanke, it's like, wait a second. What is that, German or is that jive? What is that? Because I've been waiting for him to call me. It's Hanke mofo.
Well, maybe it's German and jive.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's all right.
It might be German and jive.
All right. They've got that. And now your specialty is communications, which is in and I don't mean just communications in just talking out loud.
Mm-hmm.
but it's also how you relate to customers and how do you relate to your support.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into this? What was your entry?
My entry, a short little history.
Yeah, short.
Started
it
in
can be
radio.
long if it's good.
Mm-hmm. I'll do it short. Bullets here. Started in radio. I did commercials, voiceover work for a while.
Oh, okay.
Then I went into retail, and I worked for Target. And that's where it started to open up the opportunity, because I did a lot of research around what were the biggest gaps in management development within the stores and making the profit. And it was the ability to communicate a message so that what you plan on saying was understood. Then I moved into the financial arena. I have a strong background with credit unions, banks, financial companies, mutual fund companies, hedge fund companies. Did the same type of work. And there it was with their executives. How are they communicating a message to grow their business? Then I moved to Chicago, and I worked for a company similar to what I do today. And as a trainer, speaker for them, would travel internationally, nationally, and do very similar work. The whole concept of how are we helping individuals communicate so they have more impact, they have more influence.
Okay, so you hit a wide swath of different. Sounds like you couldn't keep a job, but that's not
right.
true. It's just like, I went from retail to finance to this to that, which is actually a self-imposed situation.
I would like to say I was doing research along the way.
Yeah, I was gaining
Thanks,
material.
Craig.
I was gathering
gaining
content.
material.
Yeah, no, I actually the people with more jobs actually have more value. It's just, and they say, I was talking to an HR person. It's like, if I see someone who's been with a company for more than 5 years, I get nervous.
Do you?
Well, I don't. They say that.
They say they do.
Yeah, because for some, it's like, why aren't they improving? Why aren't they? I mean, if they, at least if they don't see them change jobs, it's okay maybe if they stay in the same company. But even then, they get kind of. It's like we expect to see people kind of job hop because we expect to see people try to improve their situation, improve and expand their deal.
Right. Well, and I think that's what my career has done. I mean, and it's opened up doors because of working in different industries. And I worked for a huge manufacturing company right before I started the company. And it gave me a perspective of all these different companies, different industries, different focus, different culture, diversity, as well as different levels in the company. And everyone still needs assistance when it comes to what level are they really having impact on other people. What level are they really able to influence someone to act on what they have to say?
Because there's a myth that the higher you go up,
it's a myth.
the smoother they're going to talk, the more professional they're going to be. And I find that's not necessarily the case, especially when it's time to present in front of a larger audience.
It isn't. It's like anything else. I use sports analogies a lot because people can get those.
Because you're a Packer fan.
And I'm a Packer fan. I kind of grew up around it. But it makes sense because even if you take something as simple as skiing or tennis, even if you've been doing it for a really long time, but no one's really taking a magnifying glass and saying, your foot in the ski, your toes are turning, whatever it may be, where you really take those specific behaviors that you're doing when you're going down the hill that maybe are not allowing you to cut through the snow like you want to or make the turns that you want to. And what happens, I think, from what I see with some of our clientele, you get to this level of executive position, whether it's director, VP, CEO, or whatever it is, and now you're in this position where everyone thinks, well, you should be able to communicate, you should have eloquence and be very elegant and have charisma. Yet if no one's never really given you those components and those skill sets, how do you know?
Well, we'll take one of these. You said charisma. How do you give someone, because a lot of charisma is natural.
Is.
It's like humor. People think that you can. There's a difference between being funny and having humor. You can make anyone humorous. To be funny, you have to, years of childhood problems. You've had some kind. Maybe your parents ignored you, or you had all these issues, and you developed a defense mechanism that you've honed over time because for 20 years you use that to, as your strength. It's one of those things that you use to make friends with people. It's not something you can teach somebody in a day and a half. You can teach them to be humorous. I think communication and charisma, that's something that you have to, you can kind of give. Because to me, that doesn't sound like you can give that to somebody.
I don't think you can give a lot of...
Or teach that to somebody, I mean.
Right. When you're thinking adjectives, if someone says to me, I want to be credible, confident, I want to be more authentic, those are all natural skills. Charisma, authenticity, I think it's being your natural self. And how you capture that in someone is videotape them. Because when they're in a conversation, they are having a totally different internal experience than what perception.
Oh, everybody sounds and looks great in their heads when they're talking. I'm like, I'm going to be powerful leader.
Or vice versa.
Nah. When you sound like this, going, hey, I need you guys to do these things.
Or vice versa, Craig. A lot of times people will say, oh, I'm terrible. I don't want to watch myself on tape. I can't stand the way I sound. And you get them on tape, whether it's an audio tape or it's videotape, and you sit down with them and you start saying, now I want you to watch as if you truly are watching someone else. Just point out what you like. That's your natural self. And when I start pulling that out for people, many times people will say, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Oh. Great. So now this is a start. And it's not about changing them or making them something that they're not. I'm not a proponent of that. You're not going to see the robotic, the methodology of how you should move.
And no offense, a lot of Toastmasters situation. That's if you're a business person, I think Toastmasters is very good for you for someone who's never spoken in front of people before. But it does teach you a format and kind of. I went to like 2 meetings because I thought the first one I go, it can't really be like this, and then the second one I go, yes, it's exactly like this. I think I gave the guy who does the check tennis elbow. And so I was like, well, they're trying to pull my personality out of me as long as I can, because they wanted to keep me in a special rhythm. It's the mechanics of speaking.
Right. Which I think there's some things.
There's some value to that.
Like that. But when we go back to the question about how do you do charisma, how do you do authenticity, when someone sees themselves on playback, then they get a chance to say, oh, I didn't realize I did that. That's not so bad. And a lot of it is letting them see that every one of us has strengths. Some of the strengths are more noticeable than others, and to be able to emphasize on those and then to balance out the weaknesses, that's where authenticity, I think, starts to come through. And I think there's still that position of I need to give them some mechanics. However, I'm not going to make it real robotic. You need mechanics to play tennis.
Oh, sure.
You need mechanics to get down that ski hill without falling on your face several times. That's definitely a learning curve.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Which you need to do that.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big proponent of failure.
But it's the component. I tell individuals a lot. It's similar to golf is an easy example to use, analogy to use, because golf has its skills. So if you're going to go to a golf coach, you're going to get golf skills to play, correct?
Yeah.
Now, the thing that people don't realize in communication, there's core skills that will get you through almost everything.
The fundamentals.
The fundamentals. Now, the challenges, though, on that golf course, every golf course is different. The distance to the tee is different. There's different obstacles between when you tee off to when you get to the green. It's taking your golf skills, those core skills, and you have to adapt them to that golf course. Communication is the same thing. You take your core skills and you adapt it to when you are in the boardroom, when you're up in front of a group, when you're one-on-one, when you're on a conference call, webinar, hanging out at the water cooler.
And I think golf's a great analogy because golf is continually humbling. Even when you're really good. I mean, look at Tiger Woods now. He is.
Do we need to talk about
No, I'm not talking. We're not going to talk about what he did. We're talking about his golf game. His golf game's not as good anymore.
Right.
He's not as. I mean, he is very much beatable. He was in contention a couple weeks ago on a Sunday, and he didn't win. That's rare. I mean, if he's not in contention on Sunday, the odds of him, he still could come back and win, but that's rare too. But he used to be the kind of guy that on Sunday, the last day of the tournament, if he was in contention, gonna win it. Now he's just another golfer because golf can humble you. Speaking is the same way, I think, because speaking, there's nothing more humbling than speaking. Maybe doing stand-up is much more humbling because there's actually more belligerent people in the audience, but you have to keep track of it. You have to keep doing it, and you got to practice it, just like golf.
Here's how I think you practice it. Because when we talk about, we meaning the company, and we talk about communication skills, if someone brings us in and says, we need our leaders to be better on stage, this is the only time the entire company is getting a chance to connect with them, that the piece that corporate world tends to miss out on is how you swing that golf club from Monday to Friday is how you will play on Saturday. And the idea is it's not just about teaching them presentation skills. It's about teaching them how do you take these core skills of communication and you tie it into everything you do. That way, when you have to go on the stage, you already have all these behaviors.
And they're going to see the person, if you teach it every day, if you do it every day, because, I mean, that's my problem, but also my strength is I don't have the off switch, they say. Are you always on? Yeah, I'm not off. I mean, when I sleep. But I mean, you know me. This is how I talk when I'm out in the public, which is kind of scary for some people. I'm constantly like this, even at home, talking to my dogs. I have the same kind of situation. So when I get on stage, there isn't much of a transition. Maybe I'm a little louder because there's people in the back room that I'm trying to get to so I can project, but I feel so much more comfortable because I'm not trying to be the speaker. And I think I think what you're trying to say is they need to be doing that Monday through Friday.
That's it.
And not change when they get on stage.
That's it. It's all or nothing. I kick off my conversations a lot with my clients, asking them, give me some adjectives. Give me at least two adjectives that best describe how do you want to be perceived, no matter who you speak to, no matter what communication medium it is. You hear a lot of confident, credible, authentic, knowledgeable, trustworthy. And I say to them, if that's going to happen, it's Monday to Monday. Monday to Wednesday does not count. And I have a strong belief that there is no way you can be effective in a sales pitch, a presentation, something that is a little bit more high stakes, if every day you are not an effective communicator. It won't work. And it makes it so much easier that, say we are working with sales and you're in sales and you're doing a sales pitch and there's $1 billion profit on the line. Well, if you've already had these behaviors, these communication core skills that we've been referring to, and that's just who you are, when you're in that conversation, you don't have to think about those skill sets. You're thinking about the conversation, the message, how does it relate to the client? How can you interact with the client? Are you reading the client? Where do you need to transition that message? Then the puzzle gets to start to fit together, and it makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, let's take an example, without giving away your trade secrets. We'll grab the IT director, because let's be honest, those are the ones that don't have the best speaking skills. I came from IT. I dealt with them a lot.
Did you?
Oh yeah, I came from IT, but they loved me because I was just like this as an IT person. So I was able to go to the salespeople, go to the president of the company, and talk to them and interact with them, and then get information and fix their computer and go away.
You were the spokesperson.
I was the Rosetta Stone. I was the one that I was able to take the hieroglyphics and change it into Latin. And but the IT people, they're great at what they do, and there are some that are charismatic, very few, but it's just a stereotype. We'll just say we got the IT director who's got to give a presentation, or it's their annual meeting. So they bring in the great Stacey Hanke, the wonderful, the talented, and now the pressure's on. So we got to get this guy presentable. What's the first few things you look for or ask about? What are the questions to try to find that core that you're trying to pull out of these people?
Well, if you're going to coach anyone, there's got to be buy-in. So the first thing would do is ask him or her what's going on. Something as simple as what is happening. What do you want to walk away with? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling? What feedback have you gotten? Gain the buy-in. Then it's on a video camera very quickly.
So almost all of the things that you're doing is based a lot on video, which is a great tool, but that's your main tool is the video.
If we're doing coaching, if we're doing workshops, definitely. Because otherwise I would argue with them all day. Because what I'm seeing versus what they're feeling is so different. And the other piece of it is about confidence. If you're talking IT or someone who just is not comfortable with even a small group, talking to 5, 10 people, you've got to build the confidence, because if the confidence isn't there, they're not going to buy into anything that you give you. And then that confidence gets built because they see themselves on tape first. Give them a couple of thoughts, ideas based on what I'm seeing. What's getting in the way from them having more impact? What's getting in the way from them coming across the way they want to come across? Those adjectives come out again. Then I let them try it. And that from taping 1 to taping 2, there's instant changes. Now you're starting to build their confidence because they're realizing, A, I can do it. Wow, it was that small of a skill. It didn't hurt as bad as I thought it would. Now I'm starting to see the changes. And then you get the buy-in. The buy-in starts. So that power of that video camera is critical because they get to see the changes from where they started to where they are going to go. And it's tools. It's finally saying, I've got something now to work off of that if it's part of my pre-planning before a boardroom conversation, or maybe I'm in the midst of a conversation and someone throws me a really difficult question, I get thrown off, I forget what to say. At least now I know where to go to get back on track. That way no one knows. Because a lot of times what happens, individuals get uncomfortable, they get nervous, maybe someone really throws them a curveball, they forget what to say, and instead of taking a moment to figure out where do I go back on track, Most people keep talking. Most people continue to ramble. And it's like a train wreck.
Oh, I bet I've been in those.
We all have. And the key is it's not that the train wreck won't happen. It's knowing that when you're in the train wreck,
Surviving the train wreck.
how to put on the brakes and get back on track. No pun intended, but literally to get back on track so that your listeners don't realize what you're internalizing, those negative conversations we sometimes have in our head, but you're able to get back on track. And that's that piece, because the minute we do something in a conversation, if we do it multiple times where we're distracting our listeners, we're frustrating our listeners perhaps because we can't get to the point, that's when we start to just chip away at being able to influence.
Now, I know you do a lot more than just coach people for speeches, but we're going to keep going down that track just a little bit, and then we'll get on some of the other communication things that you do. But so we've got the person, they've gotten some buy-in from you, because it's not everybody falls in love with speaking right away. So there's going to be, we'll just say there's enough buy-in that we're going to be able to reach our goal. So now they got to go to the speech. Are you a proponent of memorizing a speech, or are you a proponent of setting up an outline, or what would you think is the best way for the average person, the average business person to prepare for a speech? Because I know it's different for every speaker. I mean, I prepare differently than you prepare versus, there's some people who read everything verbatim. What would you suggest for someone like this IT director our fake little IT director who hasn't really done these things before?
Bullets.
So you are a proponent of the outline situation. You put them in bullets, but it's just
depending on how the outline looks. We have a tool that we use to help individuals put together a message, even an impromptu message. I mean, we're really trying to get our tools to match every type of conversation that they have. So they're used to writing in bullets. And it's the concept of, if you memorize it, it's going to sound memorized, it's going to sound canned, you're not having a conversation, you don't sound natural, and good luck if you forget what to say.
Yeah,
because you are not going to get back on track. Yes, and then you get the folks that are reading their message. This is about having a conversation with people. And when you're more conversational, that's when the authenticity starts to come out. So we have a process that we walk individuals through. It's a very bulleted point process. Then when they put it into note format, I'm all about using notes. Hey, you're human. You're going to forget. You can use notes. It's how you use them.
Well, here's the thing. I probably need to use notes more because I have a tendency of being very tangential. Tangential. I can't even say the word. That's how often I'm off track. Where I'll be talking, and then something will spark because my mind's going 100 miles an hour. I've already thought about 9 things now. Off I go. Coming back. Now I use PowerPoint not as a crutch because I just use it as a place mark. Like I'll talk, and then I'll quickly look, oh, where am I? Oh, okay. Now I go back to where I have enough skill to get it back on track. With you got several people talking in bullet points. How do you keep them on track from when they fall off the side, when they do lose their place?
Here's how you use it. If you're writing in bullet points.
'Cause do you have like the notes in your hand?
And you've got them set off to the side.
Okay. See, that's what I'm saying, because I've seen speakers who make a lot of money holding pieces of paper. And they're holding it in their hand, and this is where my question was, because I need to do that to some degree, but I just don't. I come from a comedy background. If you're walking up there with a notebook, or you're holding any kind of paper, or you're even stopping to go look at paper, that's unprofessional. Because you should know your stuff. And I don't feel that. I think you should just know what you can do. Like Robert Bradford's a guy who's he knows his stuff so well that he doesn't need any notes. But I think I would need some to keep track. How would I utilize those notes to the best way?
We're talking 2 different levels. If you're getting paid.
No, but I just want to talk about the first level.
Well, let's talk about corporate.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So when we're working with corporate, and I'll tell individuals, if you're writing in bullet points, then when those are officially going to be your notes, you take them with you if you need them, and you put them off to the side.
Okay.
You don't want to be hanging on to them because you're going to fidget with them, you're going to read from them.
Right, you're going to and when you look at them, all you're doing is showing a big white spot where your face should be.
That's right. Now, what you do with them, though, if you forget what to say, there is nothing wrong with walking over there in silence, pause, look to see what you need to get, and that's the purpose of the bullet.
Okay.
Because if you look down and the bullet's like a trigger word, it'll trigger your thoughts. You look down, you get the word, get back on track. It's how we do things. It's how we use notes. If we're reading to our notes, we're hanging on to them. Suddenly people say, oh, you shouldn't use notes. Well, it's how you use them that's not effective. You were going into PowerPoint. PowerPoint's the same thing. I mean, if you ever read, there's a bio out there that talks about the two individuals that created PowerPoint and how now they are saying they wish they would have never created it because it's not being used the way it was supposed to be used. And we have found, now I'm talking corporate, so I'm not talking the professional speaker
that's fine.
that's getting paid thousands and thousands of dollars. It's a whole different caliber. But when you're talking someone that doesn't do it, get paid professionally to do it, we use PowerPoint. We've seen it. We use it as our notes. And suddenly PowerPoint gets a bad rep. Now, if you Google visual aids will not come up as a definition notes. It is to support your message.
Yeah.
And when we show individuals how do you use PowerPoint, suddenly PowerPoint, it's like your backup singers.
Yeah, I mean, I use PowerPoint, like I said, as a place mark. I mean, there's bullet points on there, and I feel it's more, you put it up there because there are some people who are visual learners, some people who are audio learners, and also some people are listening to you, and maybe they get a phone call or a text message, and when they come back up, may not know what your point is at that exact moment. They can, oh yeah, he's still talking about that. Great, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I use it, or I use it for a laugh. I mean, I'll use it. I have stupid, goofy pictures,
sure,
but not too horrible.
Photos are powerful, and it's bullet points up on the slide. It all depends on your audience too, because we do talk to individuals where there is, maybe it's the FDA as an example, or the pharmaceutical companies we work with. There are certain compliances that they have to abide to. It's very heavy PowerPoint slides. You still can work with a heavy PowerPoint slide if you know what technique to use. And it's not reading to it, but how do you work off of it? And it's that concept of every slide that they use, it's about giving the takeaway. It's not reading to it. But I think it's like everything, where we see how other people do it. And what's so interesting about that is we copy what we don't like. And for example, when we say we don't like it when people read to their slides.
Oh, yeah.
But everyone does it.
I see them all the time.
We don't like it when people use ahs and ums, but everyone does it.
That's the one that bothers me. I don't mind them. It really does bother me when they read from the slides, because I mean, it's like you've just made yourself irrelevant as a speaker. Mm-hmm. Even no matter in what situation you're in. If you're the president, the CEO, you're the third manager down. The moment you just turn around to read verbatim a very word-heavy slide, you are useless, because we could have done that.
Mm-hmm. There's a quote, Jim Rohn. He's got a quote that states, "With success follows clues." And when you think about that quote, if you just watch others, and you watch others present, and if there's something that you really like in that they come across very credible, confident, knowledgeable, watch what they're doing. To some degree, break it up. Watch what they're saying, listen to what they're saying, and watch what they're doing, and copy it. Make it your own.
Sure,
and then
adapt
vice versa. Exactly, adapt it. And vice versa, when you see something that you don't like, don't do it. But we do what we don't like. I think we can learn a lot from just even our companies, our peers. Watch what people are doing.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I don't worry about the ums, as that whole sentence just said. I don't really worry about the ums very much, because if you have strength in personality and you have strength in content at the same time, half the people don't even recognize ums because they hear it every day when they talk to people.
Which is pretty sad.
Which is pretty sad.
It's pretty sad that people don't recognize it all the time because everyone uses them now. And that's where I come in and say, you start speaking in short, articulate sentences, eliminating these non-words, because there's this also misperception that and are not the only non-words that are out there. We buy ourselves time a lot.
You know, we'll see. And that's good questions. Always the one they do the PR because they want you to take your second to think.
It's the PR. It's even the phrases we use. What I meant to say.
No.
Well, just say it.
Yeah.
Or I'll hear people say, I have a question. I'm going to ask you a question. Well, just ask it. And when you can really start, now we're going to another level where you start thinking about every word you're saying before you say it. And I'm not saying just in a speech. I'm talking conversation. You get used to what words you're using while you're using them. Suddenly you will say more in very less time. And people respond differently to that. Because the two biggest mistakes we make in any conversation that we have where we've got the floor is we frustrate our listeners. We say more than we need to say, or we ramble, we say too much, and we go over time. Especially corporate world, you're given 10 minutes to give your portion of the conference call, and you go 15. Now, you've ticked everyone off. on that conference call because you've communicated your time has no respect. I don't respect your time. And there's this piece where you start breaking apart what words you're using. You're going to get a much different response from people.
Okay, because like I said, I don't really fall into the ums are horrible because it's. I think people in America especially are afraid of silence.
Mm-hmm.
So,
they are.
So it's not really a stalling technique. Sometimes I think sometimes it's just a matter of while they're thinking they don't want that to be empty space. It's like radio; they don't want empty air.
Which is different. You don't want empty air on
radio.
on
But I mean, in
radio.
conversation, they transfer that. Like, if I'm not saying something, then this conversation is going downhill or something.
Yet the power behind it, because when you pause, you're putting your listener to work. They're thinking about what you just said, while you're thinking about where am I going next. This is really about, we come in and we really talk about how do you take your communication from good to great. How does the athlete go from good to great? So it's everyone's at different levels. And that's especially an executive. They're there for a reason. They've got the knowledge. So now how do you take someone who is already polished and go one notch up?
Now, I know one of the things about communication that has been frustrating people now more than ever is written communication or the lack thereof, or it's not necessarily the lack because you're overwhelmed with words. It's just that there's likes, there's emoticons, there's smiley faces, there's like I have a problem it doesn't bother me. This is what I do. I say kinda in my things to be conversational, not in a professional first time I've ever talked to you kind of thing, but with a client after time, I like to write like I talk, so I will say kinda, 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 just so they can get me more as my personality, but that's not necessarily good communication etiquette in a written format. I mean, but I consciously do that, so I'm not as concerned about it, but I noticed that one of the things I hear from HR people is that nobody knows how to write.
I'm wondering if that's because so much of our conversations are turning into
140 characters?
Technical conversations, exactly.
Yeah.
And even the email. How many times we send emails, say when you're talking to someone that works in an office setting, how many times are they sending an email to someone who is literally on the other side of the cubicle when they could have saved so much time, just get up and have the conversation? Suddenly our emails are a couple of words similar to texting, similar to tweeting. I'm wondering if that's a big component of it. We've got clients calling us to come in and talk about email etiquette. I mean, email's been around forever, and it's not frontline that is needing it because they're finding that time is being wasted. There's a lot of miscommunication in the company.
Well, see, because people make assumptions with email. They project, since that email is a blank, emotionless situation, we project our own emotions to it. So we'll get an email. I got an email from one of our colleagues about doing the podcast, and I know how busy she is. And she sent me a couple words. And since I know her, I didn't get offended by it. But if you were to read it to somebody else, it was like, well, that was kind of rude. And that's what it is. My wife works for as inside sales, and she got an email from a client because she works with lots and lots of clients. It just said status. Question mark. Status of what? We've got 18 different things going on with you.
It's a prime example. And not that. I think technology is an amazing tool because it's giving us more opportunities to communicate. I think it's a matter of taking time to think about before you text, tweet, before you send the email, when we're talking business setting here, that what is the best form of communication to get the influence that you want?
I like to say you should treat every email like a drunk text. Double check it before you send it. You know, because people are like, oh yeah, she really wants to hear from me. I haven't talked to her in 2 weeks, and the restraining order is still in effect.
Yes.
It's like, do you hit send? Think about it. So it's the same thing. Just go back. I mean, I do that because think about what you're writing.
And there's so many conversations around how many emails will go back and forth on one subject, where at some point, think of the time that you're wasting there. When in doubt, make the phone call. I mean, if that person is not right there with you, when in doubt, make the phone call. And if they're not there, leave a voicemail giving the very bulleted information of why you need to talk to them, and then ending the call by saying, I'm going to follow up in an email. You'll have this in writing. And I think because there's that component of the tone to your voice, that you could take a really tough message to be able to communicate via email, you've already backed it up via voicemail. And it kind of covers your backside, so to speak.
Because I did that. There was many of an email that I had stopped writing and just said, I have to call, because if I send this, they're going to cry. Because they're going to take it the wrong way. I mean, with my publisher, we were talking about all kinds of things during editing, and I didn't want to, I'd send out something and I'd get something back, and it was like, wait a second, no, now I got to call. Which is, I don't like to call because I'm horrible on the phone. It's just I'm not the phone technique. But it's like, I got to call because there's no way I can email this and he will get it, because there's no inflection, there's no, he can't ask me an immediate question, quickly answer it, and then make that connection.
And maybe that's it too, when you were talking about HR saying, just from a writing perspective, how poor it is getting. We're always in such a hurry. Email is the quick, fast, easy way to just shoot something off.
Well, email's the slow way now. Now it is texting. Now it is instant messaging. And it is LOL, OMG,
Right. And that's maybe another step for some individuals, especially with clients or individuals that you need to have a lot of influence on. I always ask my clients, what is the best way for us to stay in contact? How do you want my communication to come through? And I've got some clients that say, I'd rather you text because I'm on the road. And it works. If I adapt my communication to what is appropriate for them, how do they want to receive it, I have the communication with them. The relationship starts to get built because it's off of what they want. And I think there's that piece to it as well.
And we get stuck in our own little bubble because, we don't like to be able to, I don't want to have to call anybody. We call people hoping we get voicemail. So, I'm like, oh, now I got to I'm sorry, I was going to leave a message, but now I got to talk to you. Okay. Now, where can people find you? Because you do amazing work, so I want to make sure that if there's anybody who wants to get some personal coaching or bring you in for executives and such, where can they find you?
The company is First Impression Consulting, but the first is spelt with a 1, ST, instead of the word spelt out. So it's just the website, firstimpressionconsulting.com.
And ask for Stacey. All right. I really appreciate it. It's very intimidating to have a communications person in front of me. It's like having a broadcasting person. I got to be on my best behavior. And I still think I screwed a lot of it up, but that's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Let's get on your flight and go home.
I want to thank Stacey Hanke for taking time out of her busy schedule. She literally was heading to the airport right before that interview, so I want to thank her for taking time out of her busy schedule. If you have any guests that you would love to hear on Reality Check with Craig Price, email me, Craig@SpeakerCraigPrice.com. Send me their name, their address, their email, their telephone, some way to contact them. I'd love to have them on the show. Thanks a lot.